Now, I'm delighted to say we've got the former GAA President, Sean Kelly, live in the line, live from the European Parliament, I understand, Sean. How are things?
Very good indeed. Working away hard. Looking forward to Shadows meeting now soon. We won't go into details on that.
Good stuff, yeah. We might just avoid that one for this morning because we're a bit tight for time. But Tom Ryan basically is a new GAA Director General. He's not exactly the highest profile figure. He fought off higher profiles in Liam Sheedy and Liam O'Neill. Just because of the profile, did it surprise you at all, or was this something you expected?
Well, any of the three, I think, would have made an excellent Ard Stewart. And Tom Ryan probably came a bit in under the radar. He'd be probably unknown to the vast majority of members of the GAA. But I'll get to know him pretty quickly. And I think whether he's under the radar or over the radar, high profile, low profile, won't make a whole pile of difference once he takes the job. But he certainly, I think, has the credentials to, first of all, reflect the ethos of the association, because he's steeped it himself at grassroots level, which is very important. And then to make the changes that will be necessary in cooperation with the youth drawn and with management. I don't think he's going to be out there pushing things in the media, but then that's not the traditional role of the Ard Stewart in Cumberland Class Scale, as opposed maybe to the CEO in other sporting organisations. The GAA has a different approach, and I think he will do that and go down very well, because he's a good fella, he's intelligent, he understands the GAA, and he'll want to make it work for everyone.
How rigorous a process would it have been to actually elect Tom Ryan, or to select Tom Ryan, I should say, because obviously they'd whittled it down to those final three candidates, and I understand the GAA outsourced some of the recruitment possibilities to an outside recruitment agency. So was it numerous interviews, do you know, for this job, and how rigorous is that process?
Well, whether it's an outside agency or an inside agency, at the end of the day, I presume the top people would have to okay it. That's the normal thing. So I think Tom Ryan will get stuck in pretty quickly. The fact that he has been in Croke Park for 10 years means that he knows the workings of Croke Park and the GAA very well, and that will stand to him. He has some big challenges ahead. Obviously, the fixtures is probably the one that stands out, but that has, in fairness to Pádraig Duffy, he steered some changes there, which will now be experimented with for a couple of years. And that will give Tom time to assess what's happening in conjunction with the youth drawn, and then come up with maybe more permanent proposals. I think myself that the media rights is going to be something that we'll have to look at. There's a lot of disquiet about the Sky deal in particular, and that's going to come up again, and he'll have to look at it from a financial point of view, but also from the point of view of the ordinary members of the association, many of whom cannot watch matches and are a little bit annoyed over it. And I would think as well, especially coming from Carlo, I hope that he will move in conjunction with the president maybe to try and bring in a second tier in football, not just to bring it in for the sake of it, to bring it in so that people will say this is worth playing in, as opposed to what's happening at the minute. The GPA do a survey. Do you want to play in the second tier? They all say no. Of course they'll say no, unless they know that what they'll be playing in will be actually better, and it could be better. And I think Tom, coming from Carlo, who have been promoted for the first time in 30 years, and their hurlers did very well as well last week as well. So I think that will stand to him, and I would say that he will be anxious to move on that.
But what would suggest that Tom Ryan is different to previous Ard Stewart? Because, OK, fair enough, Monaghan have had a very good decade, and that just happened to be while Pádraig Duffy was there. But the last two or three DGs haven't exactly come from top-tier counties that are always contending for Sam Maguire. So why do you think that Tom Ryan may be somewhat different here, that might actually instigate this change and introduce a second-tier football championship?
Well, I'd say in the GAA, like most places, it takes time to bring about change. And really, the momentum for a second tier has only been gathering pace with the last couple of years. I remember I mentioned it a few times in my time. I brought in the Tommy Murphy Cup, and it was reasonably successful, but was dumped immediately. But now people are beginning to look at it in a more realistic fashion. And I think that people are beginning to say, if you have 4 or 5 tiers in the hurling championship, why in the name of God can't you have 2 in the football and make it work? That's the important thing. It's not the question of having 2 tiers. It's a question of having a championship that fits the counties that they feel worthy of playing in. I mean, look, for instance, at what's happened in the club. The Senior Club Championship, Intermediate Club Championship and Junior Club Championship. I was with Knocknagree on Saturday night. I had the honour of presenting the medals. They won the All-Ireland Junior Football Championship. And there was no difference whatsoever between junior, intermediate and senior. It was an All-Ireland final. They played in Croke Park, the highest achievement they could get at their level. And you have to present the same at inter-county level with an opportunity to progress further as they develop. And I think that's all that's required. I mean, it's there already in all other competitions. Why can't it be in football?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one, Sean. But also, I guess it goes without saying that will require some very, very strong leadership. Like, I mean, Pádraig Duffy was not averse to change. He forced a lot of things through himself. He went on solo runs at a couple of times. And from what we're hearing about Tom Ryan, he's obviously a very astute man. But does he have that strong leadership capacity to actually force these things through? Because, in fairness, things do need to be forced through for that change that you just spoke about there.
Yeah, well, that's to be seen, but I think he certainly would. But I think that a lot of that will depend on the Uachtaráin too. The Uachtaráin is the person who can actually drive things if he wants to. He has only a 3-year period to do so. And if the Ard and the Uachtaráin are on the one word on something, they really can drive it pretty quickly. Because especially if they have a convincing argument, then they can bring the troops with them and make it happen. And of course, the easy thing and the sensible thing in the GAA say, let's try this for 3 years or 4 years and then see what happens. It doesn't have to be a permanent change initially, but usually once an experiment is taken, people see how it goes. If it's successful, you have no problem in getting it done. The same as, for instance, opening Croke Park. An absolute huge challenge. Very difficult, very emotional, very divisive. Then it opened temporarily, and then no problem opening it permanently. And that's the way with a lot of things in the GAA.
I suppose, Sean, as well, if you looked at this in terms of the long term, if you were a child growing up in one of these smaller counties and you were party to seeing your county and you actually went up to Croke Park and saw your county, who was a lesser county, would never really get the chance to play in Croke Park, go up and win a major competition on, say, the All-Ireland weekend or something like that, down the line, it would probably promote the sport in the minds of the young players, or the young people of that county, and maybe the club. Like if you look at even Roscommon, how good football is in a county with a small enough population, there's nothing to say other counties can't do that down the line. And maybe the kids of today would see this competition, grow up with it, and learn to embrace it into the future.
Yes, without a doubt in the world, success begets success, and even right now, ironically, we have 4 divisions in the National Football League. Any county that wins any of those divisions is delighted, will celebrate and look forward to a good run of the championship subsequently. So to me, it's an absolutely no-brainer. It's waiting to happen. But of course, what has to be done is to say we're going to play these finals in Croke Park, possibly as a curtain raiser to the All-Ireland final itself, but definitely, like the Tommy Murphy Cup, as a curtain raiser to the All-Ireland semi-final. And once they have the profile, once they get the All-Stars, once they get the trips abroad, I can guarantee you it would be just as successful as the Sam Maguire.
Can I ask you, Sean, about what you mentioned a couple of moments ago about the relationship between the Director General and the President? To force through change, you said there that it's very important that they're on the same page. Like, what was the relationship between Eoin O'Farrell and Pádraig Duffy in that regard? Did they have a very, very good understanding, or is it fair to say that because of some of the things that they didn't achieve, was that down to potentially a lack of a relationship, maybe?
Well, no, I think that they got through quite a lot, especially in relation to the changes in the championship, and that wouldn't have happened if they weren't cooperating. It was probably driven by Pádraig, but Eoin saw the sense of it and worked with him in it. Now, it could work in reverse. Uachtaráin could come in and say, I want to do this, and convince Ard Stewart to back him. But it's very important that they work together. And I think Tom Ryan will be very conscious of the traditional role, especially public role, of the Ard Stewart. He'll want to do things very efficiently at Croke Park level to show things are working, to make people are accountable, that they're all doing their job, because especially in a voluntary organisation, those who are being employed have a probably bigger onus than in an organisation where everybody is paid. So Tom, I think, will be able to bring the people together. He'll be a good leader, I think, in Croke Park. I think he's a good listener. And for what I've seen of him, I think he'll fit the bill very well. And as I said, he will know where to draw the line between maybe interfering, if that's the right word, with the work of the president, and as a support to him. So I'm very confident that he will do very well and have a good 10 years. And above all, I think he has a personality that people will like, and that's important as well, because I don't think he has a big ego. He wants to do it for the right reasons, and he will work quietly and diligently to bring about change. Maybe sometimes we might even notice it, but will all make a difference over time.
What's his biggest challenge, Sean?
The immediate one is the fixtures, but I think also a big challenge is to keep the voluntary ethos and to keep the clubs going. A lot of clubs now are under pressure in terms of volunteerism, and in the west of Ireland in particular, in terms of numbers. I think it's important that any clubs that are in difficulty would know that there's a friendly voice in Croke Park that wants to help them, to keep them going, and also, of course, to motivate people to give of their time on a voluntary basis at club level, because the GA is at nothing if it loses the volunteer. So the more you have, the more organised you have, and the more enjoyment people get out of it, the better chance you have of progressing.
All right, Sean Kelly, former GA president, thank you very much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.